Hey guys, welcome back to the shop. Welcome back to Work Guitars. Today I'm going to set up the CNC to run Ethan Gardner's fretboard. I've got this beautiful piece of rosewood here. It's going on a modern T-style with a Claro walnut top, very nice African mahogany back, and one of our newer style of necks. It's new to me. It's not necessarily new to the guitar world, but for an inline 6 neck, and I'll show you some more on a video about that coming up, how we set that up and how we run it. And my brain is kind of all over the place today because I got a bunch of projects going at one time as usual, and I'm trying to zero in on something and get it done. So I thought the very first thing I should do is get this fretboard running, and it can be doing its job while I'm over there trying to glue on the head plate for Travis Gates' single cutaway. And in the meantime, while that's drying, I can sand the sealer on the acoustic guitar. So the build that we got going on. And I also have a cool bass build that we're doing for Ronnie Long's daughter. And we're doing a kind of a Van Halen-y theme on it. The bass player, Wolfgang Van Halen, was the bass player for Van Halen after Anthony left. His son, obviously, who has his own great gig going on now, which I love his music. But his bass was blue, and it had that same kind of motif, the Frankenstein guitar that Van Halen played. So we're going to be doing that. So we got a lot of stuff going on, but first we got to set this up, and I'm going to set up an origin point where I want this to start. When I discovered that I could move origins around, it really opened up the possibilities on the CNC machine. For some reason, I always had in my mind to start an origin at the same place on the machine. So I would always go back to this corner right here for my origin point. I don't know why, I just had it in my head to do that. But then I discovered that I can move my origins around and I can start from wherever I want. And one of the reasons why I discovered that it was important to start from your origin fresh every day. Let me back up for a minute and explain that a little more thoroughly. I used to rely on the CNC machine to always go back to the exact origin. And I discovered that it doesn't, especially one day when I stopped in the middle of doing a fretboard inlay. And I had to go, so I cut the machine off and I left. And I came back and turned the machine back on and told it to go back to the origin where I wanted it to start from. And it changed by like 0.010 of an inch. Well, that's a lot when you're doing inlay, 0.010 of an inch. It doesn't sound like much, but when you're doing inlay on a fretboard, it sends it off center. It just messed up the whole setup on the fretboard. And I realized that the CNC machine, although it's very accurate, if you turn it on and off and move it around, there is a little bit of play in the gears, in the worm gears, and so it can change the origin very slightly. So you can't trust that to go back to exactly the same place every time. You need to set that every time. So that's what got me into realizing that I could move origins around on the table and just reset the origin every time. So that's what I'm going to do today. I'm going to set an origin over here on this inline 6 neck table surface that I have set up. And I'm just going to leave that set up because I have some more of those to do. And that helps a lot, that I can, now that I know that I should reset my origin every single time, I can always go back to the exact point and start from there and be very accurate. So, having said all of that, let's get an origin set up and let's run this fretboard. And we're going to do that right over here in this section of this area here. The first thing I'm going to do is an engraving tool path with a V-mill bit, and I'm just going to run me a center line right straight down here. And that's going to tell me where the center is. Excuse me. That will tell me where the center is for my fretboard setup. All right. So let's just do that. Let's get our origin set up and let's make some noise. All right. Here we go. First thing we need to do is move this baby over here where we want it to be. I want it to stay somewhere around in here. Right about there. think right about there is where I want it. Yeah, that's a good spot right there. I think that'll work perfectly right there. And I'll just run my line over from there. A little bit further this way. I don't want to hit those screws, obviously, that I have holding down the surface. And that misses the screws. And that's where I want my origin to be. So now I just press 4 on the handheld controller right here. That sets my origin to that point exactly. And now all I have to do is just run that tool path. Of course, I need to do a touch off for my tool to make sure that the machine knows where the tool is. I'm using the puck here. Can you guys see that? Or is the machine in the way? So the machine is in the way. Okay, hold on. I got to move the CNC machine. I mean the camera. So when you're filming yourself, it's hard to tell where the picture is being shot, because I found that I use an iPad. If I turn it around the other way, I get a better recording, a better quality of a recording, and I can zoom in and out. So sometimes I can't tell, that you can't see what I'm doing. But what I've done is I've set the origin for the next toolpaths set at this area right here. And all I have to do is tell the machine to go back to origin, and it will do that. I've already done the touch off on the tool. So let's go ahead and run that straight line cut, and then we can get this set up and roll from there. Our center line. We know that that's our center line on our fretboard when we set our fretboard up on here. We have our origin set. Our origin is that point right there where it started and made the cut. Actually, it's a ½ inch up from there and made that cut. All right? So let me get the next tool change done and we'll go from there, all right? You may be wondering why there are plants in here. Just trying to keep them from getting killed from the freeze. This is a Meyer lemon. I like to grow things. Do you like to grow things, man? Growing stuff is cool. All right, so I got a Meyer lemon in here and a bay leaf plant. I'm just trying to keep the winter from killing them until I can get a greenhouse built out there, which is one of our projects coming up on the property we have here. And yeah, so that's exciting stuff. But anyway, I got the center line done. All right, so that's my center of my fretboard. I know that's where I need to set up this piece of rosewood on that center. I know that my origin is 1/2 of an inch from the end of this line. That's my origin point. So I know, and the way I drew the origin on this fretboard was the very end of the fretboard at the center. All right, so I know that I need to go past the origin a little on the setup so that I have some to cut off at the end to clean up the outside profile cut. All right, so if that makes sense to you, let me know. If it doesn't, I'll try to explain it a little further. But anyway, right now I'm just going to set up some holes in here so that I know where to place the fretboard on the machine and on the neck. I'll use some 5mm holes for that. All right, so let's do that and get it done, and then we'll roll on from there. First thing I want to do is do some holes on the back of the fretboard. Then I'll do the holes in the table. Then when I flip it, it goes exactly back where it's supposed to go. All right, so I'm gonna find some centers on this fretboard. we'll get this set up on here and we'll go from there, okay? So hang tight. Let me go get my calipers. I'll be right back. Here, we got what? 2.9, I said. 2.902 divided by 2, 1.451. And I'll do that on this end, and that way we're just cutting out of the center of the board. We have more than we need, and that's a good thing. There's my little mark. Those are my center lines for my fretboard. So I have to decide what I want to be front or back before I put the holes in it. And I think both sides look good, so it doesn't really matter. Actually, I think I'm going to do this as the back. Okay, so I need, how long is this bad boy? Let me go get a tape measure just to make sure. Okay, so this piece of wood is basically 19 and 15/16. I need a finished 19.48 or 19 and a half basically. So I don't have much to play with here. A little under a half. So I'm only going to let this end hang past the origin, which is where the profile ends, by 3/16 of an inch. So I know my origin is a half an inch up from this point. And I did that, it sounds weird, but I did that so the line would go past where the fretboard is so I can see where the line is, the center line. So I'll just put my half-inch mark right here. I know that's where my exact origin is. And I know that I can come past that some. To clean up the end of the fretboard. So that's where we're going to be. We'll set it up on the center and we'll go from there. All right, I'll be right back. Let me get the tape. We'll drill some holes in the back of this, and then we'll drill those same holes in the table for reference. All right, let's do that. Right, got those holes done. Looks good. Let's make sure they fit. The pins fit. Yep, Fits nicely. You have to give it a little tap with a hammer. That's what you want, nice and tight. Not too tight, don't have to hammer them in like a nail, but just a little tap. It's great. All right. Okay, we got our register pins on the back of the fretboard. Now we're going to do those same holes in the tabletop. Then I can flip the fretboard over. We can run the surface, and that'll take a little while. And then I can go do something else. So sometimes you got to do something before you do something else, right? So let's do those real quick, and we'll move on. Okay, that looks great. Now we know that the fretboard is going to go exactly back where I want it to be. We don't have to worry about origin anymore. We know that this is going to go right back on those holes, and those same holes are on the necks already. Hang on, let me show you. Hold on. So those same holes are on the neck, right? Inline 6 neck, ready to go. We've got some work to do on those today also, but I gotta get this going. So let's do that. We'll get this set up. We'll get the surface running. We'll do the surface first, and then we'll cut the profile. You kind of want to cut the profile first when you do these, but you shouldn't, and I'll tell you why. When you're doing the surface, as you come across grain sometimes, it'll tear out, obviously, so we don't want to do that. Now, I tried doing the fretboard profile going this way along with the grain, but I like going across the grain better. Can't explain why, just do. All right, so let me get this set up. We'll get the surface running, and we'll be on our way. Buy these 5mm pins from Master Car. They work great for this. Holding everything exactly where it's supposed to be. Couple little taps. Now that's in place. There you go. Put a little tape on here to hold this down. Couldn't find the tape. The hardest part of doing this is to line them back up with the holes. So I try to put a little mark on the ends where the hole is. This is the hardest part, because it's hard to see. Need more light. More light. Must be made out of aluminum. There we go. That works. How about that? That's kind of cool. The old tape dispenser light trick. The glue. That's the hole right there, that's the hole right there. Make sure it's sitting all the way down in the hole. And we'll use this as a weight. The old tape dispenser weight trick. The multi-use tape dispenser by StewMac. All right, we'll let that glue set up for a second. Turn off the auxiliary light system. All right, we're rolling now. Let's get the surface run. We'll go do some other stuff. Head plate on this neck. I've already done the fretboard. You can see we got the cool little paws on there and cross at the top. So our next thing on the neck itself is to get the head plate on there. I'm going to use the fretboard placement to help me with that. So I'll make sure I get the exact gap of 3/16 of an inch between the head plate and the top of the fretboard that I like to have. I use 3/16 of an inch thick nut material. So I use that nut, I use the fretboard to help me place this and glue it down, and then we'll have that done. Then it's on to putting the frets onto the fretboard. But I want to get that glue up done first. So while that's gluing, we go do something else, right? Okay, it's a little loud, but we got to do it. All right, so let's do it. Turn that dust collector off. So this is what I mean. See how the neck doesn't quite register right here? This neck is a little wider than it needs to be here anyway because I sand down to the fretboard, but still, it didn't go back on the x-axis the way it needed to go. But it's correct this way because I double checked it on the intonation. So that's okay. So we can still use this to make sure that our head plate glues together in the proper place, right? Okay, so I just need to sand this up right here a little bit because it does still have some machine marks on it. So I'm gonna sand this down good and flat, and then we'll glue the head plate on, all right? Just down right here. There we go. Have a little nut blank, put that there like that, and our head plate butts up to that. That way we know the head plate is in the right place. We'll drill a couple holes, put some pins in it, and then we're really in the right place. First I'm going to put this angle right here. There's an angle right here. I'm going to just sand that on here. And then we'll know that's in the right place. And I can rough cut this piece of maple that we're using for the head plate. Because we're going to be painting the head plate on this white, with a white body. It's going to be very pretty. Very pretty. All right, so let's do that. Let me get that angle on there. Okay, so like I say, there's an angle here, obviously. And I used to always set up every time with the T-bevel by moving the fretboard or just using a square block, like so, and then setting the T-bevel up accordingly. Hold on, let me get that out of the way. The old sliding T-bevel, which works extremely well for this kind of stuff. And then that right there, that's your angle, right? I used to do that every time. Then I realized if I'm going to do it the same way every time, I don't just mark it on my bench. So now I have line drawn on my bench. All I got to do is set it up like that. All I have to do is walk over here and set the T-bevel up like that. All right, and then I can set the sander up, and we can go from there. You say, well, you could use a table saw to do that. Yeah, you could. You can do things a lot of different ways. I just do it like this. There's so many different ways to do anything. You can use a miter box saw or whatever, cut that long angle. I just find that it's easier to just set that up, grind a small angle on the end. It doesn't really have to be square because I'm going to use the headstock itself to mark it where it needs to go. So we're good to go as far as that is. A pretty big gap in between the sander and the table. So I tape down a piece of an old scraper blade that I have to fill that gap in. Like that. Keep it from getting weird. And there you go. The angle is sanded on there. We'll try to show it to you, but you probably can't see it. So let's go back where we were. All right. And we can put our little blank back up there, our nut blank back up there. Now we have our angle on there. We can just push this up to it. Like that. Mark the back, and we can cut it out. Do a rough cut on it. That's our head plate. All right, so we'll cut that out, and then we can glue it back on. Let's do that right quick. Be right back. All right, we got our head plate rough cut now. In the future, I'll be doing this a different way. I discovered a better way to do it than this, but these necks have been made for a while. And this is the way I've done it in the past, and it's always worked well. But in the future, I'll be gluing this on and then placing this back on the CNC to cut this off and to drill the holes for the tuners. I do the tuners manually now, and then this one will be the last one that I do that. I could set it back up on the CNC. I may try that on a different head, I'm on a different neck, one of my sample necks, just to make sure that it works, to get those holes exactly where I want them to be. Still learning, try to learn every day, you know. All right, so now I know that's exactly where that needs to be. I got a little bit of overhang all the way around that I can route back off. That's where my head plate goes on. I'll glue it like this, tight against that nut. I'm tight against the fretboard. I have exactly 3/16 of an inch in between the two. Right? Right. Well, exactly the thickness of that nut, whatever it is. My nut blanks, I believe they're exactly 3/16. Let's check it and see. Where's my calipers? Oh Lord, the ever-present search for calipers. Hold on, let's see. 1875. You can't get any closer to 3/16 of an inch than that. All right, that's exactly the decimal equivalent of 3/16 of an inch. Okay, so that's where we're going to go right there. Now I'm going to drill a little hole here and a little hole over here that I can put my pins in to keep this from sliding when I glue it down. All right, so let me get set up to do that. These pins are exactly the same size as the bit, so when I stick it in there, it holds it very tightly. I use this to mark it with. That way I know basically where my holes are. So put one hole here first to hold it in place. Put a pin in there. Now that won't move around on me. And I can mark where the other holes go. And I want to drill this hole a little off center of where the tuning hole goes, so that the drill bit doesn't try to drop down when I drill for the holes for the tuners. That way the drill bit doesn't try to drop into that hole. I just want to put a hole in there for the pin. Now when I glue this down, this head plate isn't moving around on me, right? I have a couple of drill guides, a couple of gluing guides that I made that I can drop down on there like this. Some clamping calls, right? And then I can put this in the vise over here. I'll show you how to do that. Very simple. I just use a vise to glue that on with. Works great. So I can see all this stuff is starting to gather around me again. It's time to put everything away again. Drives me crazy. This end of the bench is kind of the detritus end, excuse me. This end of the bench. Little scraps of sandpaper that I can't bring myself to throw away because, I mean, they're still usable, right? And then the little scraps of wood that I can't bring myself to throw away because they're still usable. Some Purple Heart, some rosewood, you know. So they stay down here along with the sharpening system and so on and so forth. But anyway, where were we? We were gluing on the head plate. So we just take these pins back out. We'll put some glue on our head plate. And glue this baby down. Wait, glue tape. So it don't get messy. Right there. Little piece of tape right there. Put some glue on her. Wipe that off. That, right. Get a paper towel. Water. All right. I got a little happy with the glue here. Good coat of glue on there. Got more than I need. Get rid of some of it. Putting it on some trash. Okay. Got that there. Now we can put our head plate back on. Put our pins in. Pins drop back into the holes nicely. All right, that won't slip around now. Put our clamping claws on there. That. Take the fretboard back off so it don't fall off and get messed up. Remove that. We can remove this tape. Don't need that anymore. I know it's not moving around. Take this, put this on here, like so. Got a little sandwich going. Take that and drop it right down in here, like that. Good clamp. Then I just put a couple up top here just for fun. Like that. And she's glued on, just like that. Makes a great clamp with this kind of stuff, laminating small parts. Okay, and the head plate's glued on. So today we got a lot of stuff done. I'm going to call it right now on the video because, you know, they go too long and probably get bored and turn it off. We don't want you to do that. So I'm going to go ahead for the rest of the day. I'm going to get that set up and start running some frets and some inlay, cut the profile out. I'll show you that neck when it's done. I mean that fretboard. That fretboard will be going on our inline 6 necks. Getting that all set up so I can do kind of a production run on those. just about there. I have Ethan's neck glued up. This is his blank, and this is very pretty, very nice quarter sawn maple. And I'll try to do some videos of how I do that. You know, I don't know exactly what you guys are interested in seeing because I don't want to do things that are boring. And sometimes just watching people set up machines and running machines can be a little boring. So if you have any suggestions of things you would like to see on the channel, by all means throw them down in the comments. I've been getting some good comments lately. I appreciate that, guys. Good questions about things, good comments about tips about, you know, using acetone on rosewood to clean it real well because it's oily. And, you know, people asking questions about where I get some of the products that I use, and that's awesome. I appreciate that. I like to talk to you guys. So let me know if you're interested in seeing a particular thing that I can do on the channel, and we'll try to get that done. In the meantime, I hope you guys have a good one out there, whatever it is that you're doing. I hope life is treating you well, and I'm going to get back to work. You guys be good to each other out there. Wait a minute, that didn't come out quite right. Let me see if I can get that whole statement out properly. You guys be good to each other out there, and we will see you around here somewhere, I hope. Peace. Worth Guitars. See you out there. Bye.